Hello, children. Good morning. How are you all? Busy? And I hope you all are enjoying the holidays. Do something new which improves your knowledge. Like it may be your drawing, it may be reading, or improving your handwriting or your speaking skills. Okay, today we are going to discuss about the lesson The Model Millionaire. Lesson number 6, written by Oscar Wilde. This is a story of Huey Erskine. The pronunciation is Huey Erskine. He was a young, good-looking man and he was admired by both men and women. But he was not so clever and he had no money also, and he was always changing his jobs. He first worked on a stock exchange and then as a tea merchant, and then stopped doing everything, and then he started to work under a lady by selling a sherry. Then he loved a lady called Laura Merton. But when Huey went to ask her father to get married to the colonel, Colonel Merton was the father of Laura Merton, and then Colonel Merton said, if you bring 10,000 pounds, then I will agree for your marriage. This was the challenge given by Colonel Merton. Then he went to Alan Trevor, who Huey Erskine was having a friend, Alan Trevor. They were best friends. So once when he went to his friend home, there was a beggar, and Alan Trevor was a very good painter. When Alan Trevor was painting, by seeing the model of a beggar was holding a cap in one hand and having a stick in one more hand with bent. He was bending and he was having a hat in his hand, left hand, and the stick in his right hand. He was standing for the painting statue. So when Huey Erskine went to Alan Trevor, he saw the beggar man. He thought very sad of the beggar, and then he gave a sovereign to him. Sovereign means a gold coin. He gave to beggar, but he was not knowing that he was a richest man. He was the very richest man. So then how he got married? What happened? This is the story of Alan Trevor, Huey Erskine, Laura Merton, and the beggar. The beggar man was nothing but no one that Baron Horsburgh. The model millionaire means he was looking beggar standing in the form of statue, but he was the very richest man. So come, let us see how and what happened in the story. We have new words in the lesson, that is sherry, a kind of wine. Sherry means a type of wine. Wrinkles, we all know, ನೀರಿಗೆಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ಗೇರೆಗಳು, ಮುಖದ ಮೇಲೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಗೇರೆ. Small lines on the skin of a person's face or hands. A sovereign, a gold coin worth 1 sterling. That means a very richest coin. Invest, to put money in a business. If you want to open a shop, first you need the money to open a shop. That is the investment. Admire, ಮೆಚ್ಚುಗೆ, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡುವಂಥದ್ದು. Regard with respect, look at with please, happily. Millionaire, a person whose assets are worth 1 million pounds or dollars. Who is very richest? A person whose assets means his things like property, car, home, buildings, many other things. That is millionaire. Miserable, unhappy or uncomfortable. Faint, slight, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ. Dreadful, extremely bad or serious. Splendid, magnificent or very impressive or excellent. Apology, to ask sorry. Regretful. So this is the story, The Model Millionaire. What makes a person rich and successful? Is it luck or hard work? Always it's a hard work. Sometimes a luck also gives the chance. One can afford to be generous only if one is rich. Do you agree? See, if a person is very rich, then only is a good person? No. There are many people who are very poor but very good, noble, generous. ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮನಸ್ಸಿರುವಂತವರು ಬಡವರನ್ನು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. Do you know what irony is? Okay. So, we will discuss in the lesson. This lesson is written by Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde. Oscar Fingal Flaret Wills Wilde was an Irish poet and playwright. After writing in different forms throughout the 1880s, the early 1890s saw him become one of the most popular playwrights in London. He was from London. He born on 1864, in the year 1864 on 16th October, Westland Row, Dublin, Ireland. Died on November 1900, 1 century, 120 years passed away. Paris, France. His period was aestheticism, that means old year period. He wrote many stories like Canterville Ghost, The Selfish Cane, The Remarkable Rocket. And he wrote many dramas, and this The Model Millionaire is also a skit. The importance of being honest, solemn, an ideal husband, Lady Windermere's fan, and many more. So he's from London. He born in the year 1854. He wrote many short stories and plays. His name was Oscar Fingal Flaret Wills Wilde, an Irish poet and playwright. Poet means we all know, playwright of like writing the skits and dramas. Read the lesson and understand the benevolence in the story. So first, you should read the story before watching the video. Read the story, and along with me also you can read it. So the first is The Lover. So Hughie Erskine was having a lover, Laura Merton. Hughie Erskine was a very good looking young man. He was liked and admired by both men and women. So everyone liked him. He never said any unkind word about anyone. He did not speak rudely or roughly. But he was not very clever and never had any money. He was not clever also, and he was not having many money. He was always changing his job and tried everything. He was always changing his job and tried every job. At one time, he had worked on the stock exchange, which had lasted only for 6 months. He had been a tea merchant for little longer than that, but soon got tired of selling tea. Then he tried selling sherry instead, but again he failed. First he went for stock exchange, then he had been a tea merchant, and then he tried of selling tea. Then he tried selling sherry. First he was a stock exchange, and then tea merchant, and then a sherry seller. But again he failed. At last he gave up. He thought, enough now. Let me work only for 200 pounds a year. He was working only 200 pounds a year given to him by an old aunt. He was working under an aunt. So he was a very good looking young man. He was not so clever and he was not having money. First he tried in stock exchange, and then he worked in a tea as a tea merchant, and then selling sherry, that also he's left, and then he was working under an old aunt for 200 pounds a year. So he did 4 points here. Now he was in love with a girl called Laura Merton. So his lover name was Laura Merton, who was the daughter of a retired colonel. Colonel. We write as colonel, but we pronounce it as colonel. In Kannada and Hindi we pronounce colonel. So her father name was Colonel. Laura loved him very much. Her father name was Colonel Merton. Laura loved him very much, and together they made a handsome couple. Of course, neither of them had any money, so they both were looking very good, and they both were not having money. The Colonel, although he liked Hughie, the Colonel also liked Hughie, but he did not allow them to get married. Why? Because he was not having any money. To run a life, he needs money. So what he told, Colonel Merton told to Hughie Erskine, "Come to me, my boy, when you have got 10,000 pounds or your own, and we will see about it. First you bring 10,000 pounds. Then we will think about it." He would say, poor Hughie, he was very miserable. That means he felt, oh, what is this? Uncomfortable. That means he was not able to do that. He was unhappy. Then what happened? The painter. The Alan Trevor was the painter here. Alan Trevor was the friend of Hughie Erskine. One morning on his way to see Laura, Hughie called in to see a friend of his who lived quite near. So when Hughie wanted to meet Laura, before that he went to his friend's home. His friend name was Alan Trevor, and Trevor was a painter. He was a strange man with a red beard. He was having red beard. However, he was a very clever artist, and many people bought his paintings. So, Alan Trevor was a very good painter, and he was a very clever artist. Many people purchased his paintings. When Hughie came in, he found Trevor finishing the full-size picture of a beggar man. He was painting a full size from head to leg. The beggar himself was standing on a raised platform in a corner of the room. The beggar was standing in the corner. He was an old man, bent and wrinkled, with a piteous look on his face. Piteous look means when we see beggars, they're having a look of doing nothing. That means they were helpless face. Over his shoulder he had a ragged brown coat, old brown coat, and all torn. The coat was fully torn, and it was very dirty. His thick boots were patched and well worn. He was wearing shoes which were torn. And with one hand he leaned on a rough stick. In the other hand he held out a hat for money. So he was looking like actually full beggar. "What a wonderful model," whispered Hughie. Whispered means said slowly. "What a wonderful model," as he shook hands with his friend. "A wonderful model," shouted Trevor at the top of his voice. He said, "Hey, what are you saying? I should think so. You won't meet a beggar like him every day." That Trevor told him, "You won't meet a beggar like him every day." "Poor old man," said Hughie. Hughie said that, "Oh, very poor, no. How miserable he looks. How unhappy he looks." Then the Trevor said, "Of course," replied Trevor. "You don't want a beggar to look happy, do you? Do you want to see a beggar happy?" Then Huey asks, "How much does a model get for a sitting? For one painting or a sitting, how much you pay him?" He said, 10 pence an hour. "And how much do you get for your picture, Alan?" Then he said, "Oh, for this I get 2,000 pounds. "Well, I think the model should get some part of that," cried Huey, laughing. He's working quite as hard as you. He says that you're painting and he is also working as hard as you. So you should pay him half of your money." Nonsense. Nonsense. Why? Look at all the trouble of putting on the paint and standing up all day. It's not easy work, I can tell you. Now do stop talking. I'm very busy. Smoke a cigarette and keep quiet, Alan told him. Then the model. The model was Baron Hosberg. After some time, a servant came to tell Trevor that the frame maker wanted to speak to him. So then a person came out and called Trevor. "Someone wanted to talk to you." Then the Trevor goes out. "Don't go away, Huey," he said. As he went out, "I will be back in a moment. I'll go and talk and come. You sit with the beggar." Then he went out. The old beggar man sat down on a wooden seat, and that was behind him. He looked so lonely and sad that Huey could not help feeling sorry for him. He felt in his pockets to see what money he had. All he could find was a sovereign. So he searched in his pocket. What does he have? But he saw nothing was in his pocket, only a sovereign. Then, "Poor man," he thought. This beggar is a poor man. He needs it more than I do. And he walked across the room and slipped the sovereign into the beggar's hand. He was having only a sovereign he gave to the man. The old man jumped and a faint smile crossed his lip. So then a man took the money and he crossed his lips. He smiled. "Thank you, sir," he said. "Thank you." So the beggar told, "Thank you, sir, for a sovereign." Then he also told, "Thank you." Then Trevor arrived and Huey said goodbye and left, feeling a little silly at what he had done. So he was a little bit happy that I gave a sovereign for a beggar. That night he went to the Palette Club at about 11 o'clock and found Trevor having a drink by himself. Huey went to the Palette Club and he saw that Trevor was also having a drink. "Well, Alan, did you get the picture finished all right?" he asked as he lit a cigarette. They both were sitting in the Palette Club and he told, "Have you finished your picture?" "Finished and framed, my boy," he told. "Aitappa mugitu," answered Trevor. "And you might like to know that the old model you saw likes you very much." The beggar who was there, no, he likes you very much. "I had to tell him all about you. I wanted to tell everything about you. Who you are, where you live, how much you earn, what are you going to do in the future. I told everything about you to the beggar." "My dear Alan," cried Huey, "I shall probably find him at home waiting for me. But of course you are only joking. Poor old thing. I wish I could do something for him." He told, "If I could help him something by giving clothes, I would feel very happy. I think it's dreadful that anyone should be so miserable. It's very bad to see a man unhappy. I have got heaps of old clothes at home. Do you think he would like any of them? Why, his rags were falling to bits." I saw he was wearing a very old clothes. So I have some clothes. Shall I give? Then he told, but he looks so wonderful in them, said Trevor. Trevor told, he looks very beautiful in that old torn clothes, no. I wouldn't paint him in a good suit for anything. If he would wear a good suit, he doesn't look like a proper beggar. However, I'll tell him of your offer. And now tell me, how is Laura? The old model was quite interested in her. So he told, how is your Laura? And I told about Laura also to the beggar. The beggar was asking, and he was very much interested to know about Laura. You don't mean to say you talked to him about her too, cried Huey. Huey got little bit angry and told, why you told about her? Certainly I did. He knows all about the colonel, the lovely Laura and the 10,000 pounds. Yeah, before I telling him, he knows everything about your colonel and Laura Merton both. Then the surprise. What was the surprise to the Huey? Then Trevor told, you told that old beggar all about me? Cried Huey, looking very red and angry. Then he told, my dear boy, said Trevor smiling, that old beggar, as you call him, is one of the richest men in Europe. He is the very richest man in Europe. He could buy all London tomorrow and never miss the money. So he told, the beggar is no one but he is the richest man in Europe. He can buy anything and everything. He has a house in every capital city. Eats of gold plates. He eats in a gold plates every day, and he has every house in each house in every capital city, and can prevent Russia going to war whenever he chooses. What on earth do you mean? Exclaimed Huey. Oh, what are you saying? He said. What I say, said Trevor. What I say is actually right. The old man you saw today was Baron Horsburgh. He is no one but he is a Baron Horsburgh. He is a great friend of mine. Buys all my pictures and that sort of thing. He asked me a month ago to paint him as a beggar. And since he is paying, well, I could not refuse. He said, I will pay how much you want and you should paint my picture. And I must say, I think he made a splendid model. I think he is a very good model. He never moves. Baron Horsburgh, cried Huey. Good heavens! I gave him a sovereign. Shouted Trevor, and he burst in a roar of laughter. The Huey told to the Alan Trevor, hey, I gave him a sovereign. Then the Trevor started laughing very much. Ha ha ha. You poor man gave him a sovereign for a richest man? Started laughing. And then he says, I think you might have told me, Alan. He said Huey crossly. ನೀ ಮೊದಲೇ ನಂಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಿತ್ತಪ್ಪ, ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಅಂತ ಆ್ಯಲನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಹ್ಯೂಯಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಆ್ಯಲನ್ಗೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲೆಟ್ ಮೀ ಮೇಕ್ ಸಚ್ ಅ ಫೂಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೈ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಹುಚ್ಚರಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ? ಅಂಥ ಶ್ರೀಮಂತಗೆ ₹1 ಒಂದು ಗೋಲ್ಡ್ ಕಾಯಿನ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಅವನು ಏನು ನಗ್ತಿರ್ಬೇಕು ನನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೋತಾನೆ. ವೆಲ್, ಟು ಬಿಗಿನ್ ವಿತ್ ಹ್ಯೂಯಿ, said Trevor, I don't think that you went around giving away your money in that way. And really, when you came in, I didn't know if Horsburgh would like his name mentioned. You went out, but the beggar didn't tell his name, no? That is a mistake. What should I do now? Then he told, what a duffer. He must think me. ಅವ ಏನು ಹುಚ್ಚ ಅಂತ ತಿಳ್ಕೊತಾನ ನನಗೆ. Not at all. He was very happy after you left. Then the Alan Trevor told, No. He was very happy after you left. He kept laughing to himself and rubbing his old hands together. So, when you went out, no, the Baron Horsburgh was rubbing his both hands and he was laughing himself. I couldn't understand why he was so interested in you at the time. But I see it all now. I didn't know. I didn't understand why he was laughing and why he was very happy to meet you. But now I understood why it was. He will invest your sovereign for you, Huey, and you pay you the interest every 6 months. Now he will pay the money for you in every 6 months. Huey walked home feeling very unhappy and leaving Trevor laughing loudly. Then the messenger came to Huey's home. The next morning, as he was eating his breakfast, his servant brought in a card on which was written. The messenger brought the card, the servant, to the Huey. Mr. Gustav Naudin, messenger, his name, of Baron Hosberg. So he was the messenger of the name of Gustav Naudin was a messenger of Baron Hosberg. I suppose he has come for an apology, said Huey to himself, and he told the servant to show the visitor in. So he met with the servant. An old gentleman with gold spectacles and grey hair came into the room and said with a French accent, "Do I have the honor of speaking to Mr. Erskine?" Huey bowed. So the man told, "Shall I meet Huey Erskine now?" Then he told, "Yes," I told the man. "I have come from Baron Hosberg," he continued. "I ask, sir, that you will offer him my sincerest apologies," cried Huey. Now Huey was very much afraid. The man came to give punishment to me. So he told, "I'm very much sorry, sir. Please tell the sorry for the Baron Hosberg." The Baron said, "The old gentleman," with a smile, "he asked me to bring you this letter." And he held you a sealed envelope. On the outside was written, "A wedding present to Huey Erskine and Laura Merton from an old beggar." And inside was a check for £10,000. So the servant gave the envelope of £10,000 check to the Huey Erskine because he was a very richest man and Huey gave a sovereign. So in the form of interest, ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟೋರಂಗೆ ಅವನೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ £10,000 ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ because of that he was very good man. So then he went to when they were married, Alan Trevor was the best man and the Baron made a speech at the wedding breakfast. Baron also came to the marriage. "Millionaire models," remarked Alan. So he said, he is a millionaire model are rare enough, but model millionaires are rarer still. So he said, ಅಂತ ಇಂಥ ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಶ್ರೀಮಂತರಾಗ್ಬೋದು, ಬಟ್ ಶ್ರೀಮಂತರು ಬಂದು ಮಾಡೆಲ್ ಆಗಿ ನಿಂದಿರ್ತಾರಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ರೇರರ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಪ್ಲೇ, ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್, very laughable and enjoyable. Read the lesson and understand once again it. If you did not get it clear, watch it twice or thrice. Thank you for watching. Keep watching. In the next video, we will discuss about the next lesson, that is the great sacrifice. Before watching the next video, be ready with the lesson by reading The Great Sacrifice. Bye.